Hello, welcome to this week's transit report on July 8th, Monday. Well, before we dive into the chart we're looking at, which actually has a lot of soft aspects, we're going to have some sextiles and trines for a few days. So look forward to sharing a little bit about that. But before we do, I would like to ground us in the new moon again that we had on Friday, July 5th. Yeah, we're still in the first quarter phase. So we're in this new beginning, a new emotional lunar cycle of the month, and love looking at the charts for the new moons because we can really get grounded in what is the overall message. What area are we going to be working with or participating in, always following authority with transits. I mean, there's nothing in any of these reports that is explanatory on what we should each do with our life, but it does help to ground us in our authority as we meet these frequencies in our lives out there. Well, this new moon was our sixth lunar cycle of the Rave year. And once again, it was so heavily individually oriented. So it's been really fascinating this year to be following these lunar cycles and just witness how much individual stimulation we've been having. And here we had it again on this new moon with the sun being in gate 39 in the root center, the gate of provocation, with the opposite gate where the earth is in gate 38, the gate of the fighter, the pressure to find meaning in life. And what that makes me think of, just to point out as well, is when we look at the Cancer season that we're in, how many individual gates we have. Now, once you get past gate 52, well, we start Cancer in gate 50, here in gate 52, but then we have gate 39. Well, when we have gate 39, like last week, we get gate 38. And then we're in 53 now, which we'll get to in a minute, but then we also have gate 58. Or not, I'm sorry, 52 and 58, 39, 38, 53 and 54, where we are today. And so I just want to indicate how much root pressure during this season that we're in. Cancer, the sign of the home of the moon, right? We're talking about our inner world, uh, inner security, feeling comfortable with our home, our family. But it's so tender, but we can get a sense from all these root gates how stimulating it is. We're really under pressure and it's cardinal. So it is a time of maybe beginning things. It's the summer season. It's just a lot of stimulation, I would say. And what I wanted to point out with this new moon that was so striking is that because Pluto is still in retrograde in gate 60, the gate of limitation, and we had the new moon in gate 39 and the earth in gate 38, we had all three of our individual circuit group gates activated. So again, deeply personal. And that's what part of what made this new moon and this month such a sensitive month. We are being stimulated at really deep levels. And I think part of the overriding question is, as we're looking at what's going on in our community, where we work, our friends, all the activity that's going on, we're being offered this question: how does that relate to my truth? Does what the opportunity, the invitation to get involved in anything, does it align with what my deep purpose is right now? And it can be easy, I think, particularly Jupiter is going to be very much in the mix this week. Once I get into the transits, Jupiter is aspected a lot this week. So there may be lots of opportunities. Jupiter is this planet of opportunity. And so I think the message, though, again, is just how is that relating to what we're under pressure in order to express our own personal purpose, inspiration, and emotional spirit. This is the flavor, I would say, of the month. And what made it a little even extra sensitive in that regard is that at the time of the new moon, Venus was forming a square with Chiron. That also is a very sensitive aspect. Venus, our love, beauty, harmony, the things we want in this life was up against a hard aspect with these wounds from the past. adding the sensitivity to the already sensitive new moon that we had. Chiron is in the gate of growth, gate 42. So it also can be a lot of ground can be made towards that healing process right now. All that individual stimulation we've been living with this year with Chiron and 42, we have an ability to bring some element of that previous cycle to a close. Gate 42 is the gate of growth, evolution. It's part of the maturation process. So there's a real support in that regard, even though we're very sensitive to it. That Venus square Chiron saying, hey, we may be working on what's important to us, inner truth, but it doesn't mean we're not going to have those little ouch moments. We're so sensitive, I think, with the current patterns that we're seeing right now. I hear you now. Well, let's take a look at that. Let's go to so anyway, just from the new moon, just wanted to share that yeah. So and then this week, let's get into today. Here's the chart for Monday. All these charts again are always run for noon Mountain Time, except for when we get to Saturday, we have our first quarter moon, and I'll mention the time on that when we get to it. So as we find ourselves on Monday, the sun moved out of gate 39 already over the weekend, and we're starting Monday in gate 53 with the Earth in gate 54. So again, 2 more pressure gates along with Pluto, obviously still in gate 60. So here is the pressure to start something new. And when I think about the thematic of this root pressure to begin a new cycle of maturation, we know that it's very connected to Saturn. Saturn has been very active in its retrograde in gate 22. It's doing its restructuring and finding new stability, possibly through our personal emotional expression with others. And so I think Saturn's very connected to this cycle for sure. And then, of course, the Earth, our where we can find our grounding and our stability in the gate of ambition. So we have this pressure to transform within our family, community, whatever tribal aspect these stimulations may be coming from. I'm laughing because I'm thinking of my own example. There's this pressure to move it forward, to up level it, to transform it, but all connected to growth and development while we're having the life force energy in the pressure to start a new cycle of development. Also happening today, as we look at the astrological chart, my goodness, what a lot of blue soft aspects. This is not always the case. And so I wanted to highlight this, particularly for the first half of this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in particular, a lot of sextiles and trines. And so just to, I think, in one hand, just to appreciate, whatever has been frictional, whatever's been stimulating by that new moon, that there is this opportunity early in the week to flow with it, to see, how is this cycle of development going to start, or how is it going? How is my inner world going? Finding that equanimity and tranquility that is so important as we go through these developments. So some of these aspects, we have Venus has moved into gate 61 as of today on Monday, the gate of stimulation, and it is sextiling Uranus in gate 8. Uranus is a big part of the story right now, and I want to mention it today on Monday because Mars is going to conjunct Uranus, and that conjunction will be exact a week from today. So next Monday at 8 a.m. is the exact perfection of the Mars-Uranus conjunction. Now, this is getting a lot of headline news in the astrological world. This is many consider to be one of the biggest aspects of the year. And the reason for that, number one, is that it doesn't happen that often. So any of these aspects we talk about that are more infrequent and more rare often raises their level of importance when they happen. This one happens about every 2 years. Mars takes approximately 1.9 years to go around the wheel or around the sun. And So this conjunction with Uranus happens about every 2 years. But we're talking about two planets that just bring this powerhouse of energetic frequency. Mars, the planet of war, aggression, immaturity, but also zeal, zest, and passion for doing things in life. Such a powerful frequency. Lining up with Uranus, the the wild card, right? The planet of unusualness, the planet of innovation. But I say wild card because with Uranus, we really never know what it's going to bring. It's just like that wild card coming out of the deck in the poker game, and somebody throws it down on the table, and all of a sudden the whole game has changed. It's like we don't account for the wild card. We do all our strategizing in a card game, but when a wild card comes out, all of a sudden the game has changed. So when you take those two frequencies I've just described and you put them together in a boiling pot conjunction and they meld those energies, wow. Now I certainly think on the world stage, if we're talking mundane astrology, and when astrologers use that word, it just means the everyday world out there and the news that we see. It's hard to imagine that we're not going to see some big thing happen. And it doesn't have to be bad at all. This is not it may be shocking. It's going to be unusual. It most likely will be something that not many people were predicting, but it does indicate a shocking, powerful change in the game. So we'll just have to live through it and see what that is. But this frequency is building all week, right? As these conjunctions get closer, they build in their energetic frequency. And so this is because this is a slow moving planet, outer planet Uranus with the medium Mars. I mean, he's an interpersonal planet, but he's, it's not, again, 2 years to go around. So it's going to take time for this to come together, but it will be building all week. And so this is one I would really just to be aware of, because it is shocking. And it doesn't mean that things happen at 8 a.m. next Monday, a week from today. It just means that throughout these next couple of weeks, this background electricity is in the air. So it's like it's combustible. It's like having a campfire in the summer in the woods when there's a drought. Okay. Hopefully you're not going to start a wildfire, but you know that if a spark jumps out of the campfire and it hits the trees that need water, something can happen. And so that background electricity is certainly part of the week. But however, as I mentioned, early in the week, there's a lot of sextiles to it. But it's almost like we might feel something. There's something in the air. Well, that's what's in the air. And so obviously being grounded and stable, regulated within our physical vehicle, following and tuning in to our personal authority, whatever that center is, whatever the process is, being really connected to that this week, kind of extra important with so much electricity. Things could, if there was an altercation or a confrontation, a spark could jump and catch somewhere else. So very volatile in the background with this building conjunction. But here on Monday, we have the Venus is sextiling that Uranus, Venus in gate 56. So this is the voice expression of the abstract circuitry. And I think gate 56 is really important right now in relation to the Chiron, which Venus was square Chiron at the new moon, that there's an opportunity through our personal healing process, growth and development process, to tell new stories. Gate 56 is the storyteller, and we're being impacted by the transit field to talk with gate 56. And hopefully we're hearing our own story develop into alignment with where we've been wanting to go anyway. Whatever, again, forgiveness, healing, moving on, developing our Saturnian gate 22 grace for emotional expression with others. Well, there's this opportunity to move that forward right now. So the Venus sextiling Uranus, sort of Mars is a little farther away, but sort of it's sextiling that growing conjunction. So there could be some storytelling, and I encourage us to really listen to what we're saying, and if we hear something that's not in alignment, with the experience that we've had that matches this new process of maturity, we want to change that story because words have power. And the way we share our personal story with others solidifies it gives material 3D world structure. And if we're not speaking our individual truth, we're working in cross purposes to ourselves. So I think really helpful to listen to ourselves and to listen to our loved ones with this Venus currently in gate 56 for much of the week. Venus will be in gate 56. And we also have Mercury forming a number of these soft aspects. Mercury is sextiling the south node and trining the north node. So it's in a very supportive, free-flowing aspects with the whole nodal axis. And also Mercury is sextile Jupiter in gate 16, and Mercury, I keep talking about Mercury. Mercury, as you can see, is in gate 33. So back to these voice stories and expressions, one being Venus in 56. Now we're talking about Mercury in gate 33. We can see overall we have 5 throat gates activated. So that's why I want to keep coming back to this. When we're having conversations, wow, let's hear what we say. Be mindful of speech. How is this story being told? Now, with Mercury, the planet of communication in a throat gate, that's always significant. And 33, the gate of privacy, gate of retreat, part of the channel of the prodigal, design of a witness, it's connected and associated with our solar plexus. So this cyclical nature, and it's all about timing. So I think, again, with conversations, we're waiting to follow authority to express what we are here to share. However this comes about, there's a supportive energy going on right now if we follow strategy and timing. So with Mercury, it's ready to talk. It's in a throat gate, but it's really important that gate 33 speaks when it is correct. That word, I hate tossing that word around, but it's true. It's like, when is the timing right? There's such a timing element with Saturn in the solar plexus, and we have the 56 and the 33. These there's only 2 abstract, well, the 36, I mean, the 35 as well, but 2 out of 3 of the abstract. So our timing of conversations, really being patient. We may have something to say, but we really have to follow authority on when we can deliver it. So I think that's important. But yeah, overall, Monday, and let's go ahead and move into Tuesday. Once again, seeing not a whole lot of red in that astrological chart. So again, it was sort of a breath of fresh air. Have had so many challenging aspects, overwhelming individual stimulation. Here we have a couple of days when things are flowing. But even though it's kind of like things are flowing and smooth overall, in the background, there's still a lot of things going on. Deep inside at the personal level, still a lot of things going on, because we cannot really talk about any day of the week without recognizing this Mars-Uranus conjunction closing, growing in its frequency, and it's also in an individual gate, the gate of contribution, individual contribution to larger group goals, very associated with what we consider to be our ultimate personal inspiration. So that obviously want to keep mentioning that. On Tuesday, the moon will have moved into Virgo, Tuesday morning. So for 2.5 days, she'll be traveling through the sign of Virgo. And so we can have this emotional connection with the details. Virgo is associated with the 6th house, which is self-mastery. It's really having things in order, having good habits, having a good routine. It's really looking at the details of how do we up-level our health and well-being in that sense as a Virgo frequency. And again, this Jupiter I mentioned, Jupiter trine the nodes. We can see how thick those blue lines are. So this is, again, a multi-day transit of Jupiter in a sextile trine to the nodal axis. And so this channel of the wavelength is not only defined all week, it's going to continue until, the nodes move out of south node out of gate 48. but it really speaks to another background frequency that's here all week, this channel of talent, the South Node in 48. What can we draw from our past that's assisting in this cycle of development that we're in? And how can we share that in a very Jupiterian, skillful way that has benefit for ourselves, benefit for others? So this logical channel of sharing a refined process of development is quite possible. And that's why it's so important to hear how we're sharing it. If we're not hearing refinement in our personal story, let's go back. Let's stop and see where, where's the alignment? How come why am I letting old neural pathway stories that are no longer serving me come out of my mouth? I don't want to talk that way. It's like being people that are too negative all the time. You're creating negativity just by your verbal expression. So again, so much throat activity here with all 5 gates activated in the throat, but we also have Mars in that well, Mars is in 23, it'll move into 8, but again, just how much energy we've got tied up in this expression center for the week. But again, I just want to say that Tuesday, Jupiter making those aspects to the nodal axis, there's an ability to draw from the past and use it to our advantage into the future, where we're going, the North Node. Okay, and that's in Aries, gate 21, but Aries, that's self-confidence, not being as hurt. That Venus square Chiron stimulates us, and we may still feel pain we didn't think we'd have. I thought I was over that. Well, maybe not. Maybe you're further along, but not completely there. That's okay. Those stimulations can now contemplate what that means, maybe a little extra dose of forgiveness or letting things go. And so this idea of having this Jupiterian expression of what I've learned and how I can refine my personal healing process in a skillful way that I can share with others and that they can learn from as well. But this Jupiter, trine sextile the nodes, it's giving some sense of hope, is the way I see it. Jupiter is a planet of good fortune and benefit. And so there's this hopeful aspect. As dynamic as the world is, it seems overwhelmingly crazy. Something's going on, and we'll see if maybe this Mars-Uranus wild card can add something to move us forward. There's just no way to know till we get through it. Okay, as we move into Wednesday, on Wednesday, the sun still traveling in gate 53, line 5, is one day from an exact trine to the Saturn. So again, I'll mention it again on the Thursday chart, but whenever we have these bigger aspects, we're talking sun, life force energy, Saturn, very powerful planet in our life, this trine is certainly already building in its maximum frequency the day before. And so it's the sun in 53 trining that Saturn 22. So again, we can sense this pressure from our life force energy to support, to work through this Saturn in 22. Again, this restructuring, this Saturn in retrograde, having us stop, look at how experiences have gone in the past and how are we growing in wisdom of how we would do it better next time. So there's a lot of maturity possible on the table here. And this Sun trine Saturn is really ushering that in. It also brings a sense of stability. Maybe through this growth and development, we can have a conversation with a challenging person, lover, partner, family member, neighbor, that actually can be more stable, that we experience the maturity in our voice as a result of that trine. So yeah, I think that was another really, and of course, as you can see the chart, that Jupiter trine, and sextile, the nodal axis, again, in effect for the week itself. So sun trine Jupiter, very important here on Wednesday. And then the other thing that's happening is Venus still in gate 56 is forming a trine with Neptune. And here we're bringing in Neptune in this gate 25. Neptune's also already turned retrograde in the gate of the spirit of the higher self. And so here we're bringing in this from the channel of initiation with the gate of innocence, right? This ability to up level our innocence with life, so much tied into that phrase, tied into the idea of letting go, moving past limitations, growing and developed to maturity. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes in the background to actually elevate our feeling of innocence and acceptance with the planet and the world as it is. And so again, Venus in 56, trining that Neptune in the gate of the spirit of the higher self. What are we saying about that? There's going to be conversations where we're sharing our story, and we would love, I think, to hear growth and development in our innocence of approach to the world. Acceptance, Pluto in gate 60, still very heavy in retrograde, really grinding out the minerals of what's possible with pure acceptance and all that goes into that. So again, I'm saying these things really fast, but like there's real meat on the bone here to work through what this may stimulate. But wow, again, free flowing, soft, supportive aspects, beautiful time to communicate. And let's see where this story, we need to hear it from our voice. It gets it out of our mind and into our expression and communication. We can really feel the tangible nature of what has grown, what has matured or not. Where do we need to go back? Saturn in retrograde gives support to go back and review and reflect on the structure that we've been living under and how that is evolving due to all these activations here. Let's go to Thursday. And again, so on Thursday, that Sun trine Saturn reaches the exact degree, and the Venus has just barely moved past the exact trine to Neptune. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Thursday being the peak, I would say, everything I was just talking about, where there's room for growth here. These soft aspects are when it reminds me of the ocean when we have waves. And when it's easy to swim to shore when the wave is coming in, so you can relax and let it push you. And then when the wave goes out, you just got to relax or hold space. Well, here we have these soft aspects. There's movement here, free flowing, supportive movement. And so again, just very nice to have a week like this where we're seeing room for development, all surrounded in this Cancerian frequency of inner tranquility, inner harmony, comfortable with our home and stable and dealing with our sensitivities. We've got some support from a lot of soft aspects. Now, the one hard aspect in this chart is that Venus is moving in. Not only did she trine the Neptune in 25, but she's forming an opposition to that Pluto in gate 60, gate of limitations again. So again, it is a bit of a push-pull here, but it's finding that equanimity internally through Cancer, the moon and the new moon we're on in Cancer. How are we finding the tranquility in our inner world to meet up and link with the outer world? And so with that Venus opposite Pluto, we can't let go of that idea. Have we really accepted? Gate 60, acceptance is the first step in transcendence. So that's a reoccurring question that keeps coming up. If I'm stimulated and dysregulated, let's stop, breathe, regulate, and recognize I'm still holding on to something that's not serving me, right? Nothing in the exterior world should throw our inner game off. So when it does this week, yeah, where do I need to let something go? And I think that's an ongoing message we're getting from Pluto in gate 60. One other shift we had here, Mercury by Thursday at noon already in gate 7 line 2, but that was one of the gate changes we had. Mercury moving into gate 7 on Thursday, and Mercury forming a square and a half with that Neptune. But Mercury, square and a half with that Neptune. So stimulating, that's our spirit again here. It's like, I really keep that word acceptance, the gate 25 innocence. I mean, this is the offering here to rise above limitations from the past. And how do we have a new story to share about our future direction based on the degree of healing, forgiveness, and acceptance that we're experiencing? And Moon trining Jupiter on Thursday as well, bringing her emotional energy to have that to bring out that Jupiter. How are we up leveling how we're sharing this experience in a more logical, skillful way? Oh, that was on Friday. I sorry, you guys. I was reading the wrong note. Friday, the moon is trine Jupiter. I had to cover it up in my chart here. Yeah, there it is. On Friday, the moon will trine that Jupiter. And also on Friday is when the sun will move into gate 62, putting the Earth in gate 61. So we have the life force energy now tied into that channel of the wavelength. Gate 62 is part of our logical circuitry along with the channel of the wavelength. And so now we're going to have a week where, again, this communication, we're still wrapped up in it. How are we sharing these details? It's called the channel of acceptance. It's accepting that, yes, there is a pattern. And are we seeing that pattern? Is it moving us toward splenic related improvement, health, wellness, sustainability? How is that working out? How are we honoring our splenic intuition in that sense? And are we moving towards a greater security through our health, wellness, and sustainability? And also on Friday is when Venus will make that exact opposition to Pluto. And at the same time, that trine to Neptune is still in the background. It's only barely a degree off. So we have a Venus opposite Pluto in gate 60 and Venus trining Neptune in gate 25. And Venus is all in that gate 56. So can't get away from all these Schröd gates this week. Really tuning in to conversations, following our authority, and see what comes out. Often we don't know until we hear our own voice, but as soon as we're sharing it, we're going to get indicators this week of where we are on our internal path and process of growth and development. And also, this is, again, I'm going to mention a very long-term transit, but that Pluto and Neptune are forming a sextile that is going to continue to grow. This is a really long-term background frequency, but it's tied up into so many things in our world right now with Pluto that's going to retrograde back into Capricorn early in the fall here. And another, I don't have the date in front of me, but as we move forward, Pluto is going to drop back into Capricorn. And so the sextile is going to grow, right? It's going to get stronger between Pluto and Neptune, really drawing in, again, this story about the spirit of innocence of our higher self and how connected that is to this Pluto and gate 60. So mining these hidden truths that we didn't know existed, that we only get to learn about ourselves through challenges and limitation, to embrace that. I think having a positive attitude and reframing our stories about what we went through is very supported right now through this trine that will continue to grow as we move through the rest of the year. And then we get to Saturday, and we're going to have the first quarter moon. So this is the one chart that is not noon Mountain Time. This is 4:48 p.m. on Saturday. So the first quarter moon is a very dynamic energy every month. This is when the moon is now moved into a square with the sun. And so, again, just speaking about this week ahead, we're still in Monday, but we're now talking all the way about Saturday towards the end of this lunar week. All of this week is about growing into this cycle. It's like it gets started at the new moon. It's very tender in the first few days. We're getting settled into its frequency. But by the time we get to Saturday, wow, this is dynamic energy to move forward in whatever part of this story you're working on. Everything, she's growing in illumination all the way till the full moon. But at the quarter moon, very dynamic energy when we have our two luminaries, the sun and the moon, in a square, promoting growth and development. So all that energy has been going on with all this other story I've been telling, but we're reaching an inflection point at the quarter moon, and then the sun is in gate 62. So again, that's where this conversation idea, the details, are we hearing the details that make sense to our inner story? Are we sharing details with others that make sense with all about this alignment idea through so much communication this week? There's really energy to make growth right now while we're in the waxing phase of the lunar cycle. Now, the one stimulation we got to look at here is that at the quarter moon, Chiron is totally brought into a T-square. So Chiron being brought into this story. So Chiron in gate 42 in a T-square with this first quarter moon. tremendous luminary sun and moon energy to promote growth and development overall, and Chiron's in that story. So that's why this week, all these soft aspects, there's a lot of healing potential, or if we've done the healing, maybe it's the next phase of the healing. How does that change some of my relationships? How does some of them get let go, that need to be let go, that can't change, that are no longer growing and develop and supporting us? Maybe those need to go. How does some relationships improve because of the healing process? But there's definitely even though we're still in fixed Cancer, there's a mutation in the background due to all the individual circuitry. I mean, this new moon, I didn't mention it, but it again had 8 activations out of 13. So again, supportive opportunity in relation out in the external world, but deep mutation still taking inner world. And here in a collective gate 42, this growth may be experienced with others. So there's real opportunity here to, again, to move that Chiron story forward wherever we feel it in our lives right now. And also on the first quarter moon, we can see that Venus moves into gate 31, the gate of influence in Leo. And with the Mercury in gate 7, we're getting the channel of the Alpha, a design of leadership for good or bad. But now we have 2 logical circuit group gates. And with the moon in 32, gate 32 at the quarter moon, to me, this speaks to, gate 32 is the instinctual awareness to recognize the transformation. Gate 32 really understands value. What is the value here, and how can that be expressed in an influential way with talent? So again, there's definitely like some sort of progress very powerfully possible right here. Something about the energy of the quarter moon. She's in a gate of valuation of transformation, and we have the energy of logical energy to correct a pattern in some sense. So yeah, I think it's a good week for something to move forward here. This is, every week they're kind of like mini seasons in the month. Well, this is a month or a week to ground, be Cancerian, inner secure, stable, take care of our boundaries, nourish ourselves, be waiting for our authority to engage in conversations with others where there can be growth and development and a new transformation and cycle of development. But just to remember the lunar cycle itself was very sensitive, as I said, gate 39, gate 38. The Chiron was squaring the Venus at the new moon. And here at the quarter moon, Chiron's brought into the very quarter moon itself with the T-square. So it still remains very sensitive. So I think any again, altercation, dysregulation, anything like that, let's just take a deep breath here. There's something to learn. There's opportunity to transform and develop and move something forward, but we can't get dysregulated and get thrown off track. And that building Mars-Uranus energy, if we look at the quarter moon, we're less than a degree away, or basically 1 degree away. Okay, so we're really at the zenith of the Mars-Uranus energy. And I think that's the one to be extra aware of. We got to be mindful of these sparks. I like my campfire analogy. We're having a nice little campfire, getting the warmth, but if we don't mind that, if that spark jumps, all of a sudden we've created a fire somewhere else. So there is an extra sense of volatility out there, but if we can stay in our lane, stay within our individual truth of inspiration and expression, really good time for growth and development and moving something forward. But we might easily get distracted here because of the volatility of this very powerful conjunction right at a quarter moon. So I'm just trying to emphasize how powerful this quarter moon. Every first quarter moon is extremely dynamic, growing illumination, the square between sun and moon. And here we have this rare Uranus-Mars conjunction. So it's dynamic, I think. Really, I just want to really be present. When I go in public later this week, I always use that analogy. When you pull out into a busy intersection, look left, look right, and make sure you look left again, because things can change so fast. If you don't do that, look left again, you could easily pull out into a moving car. And there, to me, it sort of has that dynamism at the weekend here, extra awareness, but being grateful for how much inner growth and development can come from waiting for timing. I was talking about that gate 33 earlier in the week. And so this idea of timing, just be really mindful. Is this the time for this conversation or not? Because if we get out of alignment with our personal timing, it has real potential to go in the wrong direction. So I think that's a real key underlying note for this very dynamic week. And then we'll wrap it up with Sunday, July 14th. You can see we're obviously going to have the wavelength until the nodal shift, and Jupiter's still moving. Well, it's in line 6 here, so I'll get you the date on Monday when that happens, but still having also the channel of the alpha. And again, the big story on Sunday is that the Mars conjunction is at its perfection, meaning exact to the minute, is going to be Monday at 8 a.m. So again, Sunday is the zenith of that frequency. It doesn't mean something crazy is going to happen Sunday. It just means that, wow, we're really, at this moment here on Sunday, I'm just being very aware. Just everything I've shared already, but here's sort of the zenith of that conjunction. And again, with things like this, we'll just have to go forward in time and look back. I mean, there's nobody knows what in the world this is about until we've lived through it. But what we can know is that there is a volatility that we want to be extra sensitive to our inner world. We can really get triggered with this much energy, and we're in Cancer still. And so we're just monitoring this idea of embodiment and regulation always. I mean, I say that like there's ever a moment we shouldn't do that. Of course, we have to do that all the time. But man, there's really some weeks where it's like really, really be in there with it, to appreciate that if we don't get lost in things that are not important to our personal truth, if we can avoid distractions in that sense, wow, we are really at home base. If we're grounded in our body and our authority and focused on what pieces to the puzzle of the overall individual circuit group we contribute, we might see some very dynamic growth in how that personal story within our individual circuitry makes a leap, makes a Uranian change for the positive in some sense based on the inner work that we've done. So like with many transits, there's many ways to view this, but that's what I see happening here. Staying in our personal inspiration lane and truth of development, you can really make some progress as we move into the first quarter moon weekend later this week. So I think that's all I had for now. And as always, love to hear any comments, discussion, questions, anything you guys want to talk about. Anybody have anything alive inside them? I see something here now. You're so welcome now. Thank you for being here. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share? No? Okay. Well, again, thank you all. Thank you, Liz. Thank you. Always appreciate the feedback and the encouragement. Always a pleasure to have you guys here. So wishing you a lovely Monday and a great first quarter moon week. And we'll see you again next week. Thank you so much. Bye for now.